Welcome back to Disruptors Unleashed, where we look at the disruptive technologies shaping our world and the trailblazers igniting change across industries. Previously, Mike Bradford from Dassault Systèmes looked at the digital revolution taking place in inventory management and how it can improve efficiency, simplify processes, and increase collaboration across supply chains. In this episode, we'll be exploring how you can infuse circular principles into product development through material selection, design, and innovation. Let's get started. With us today is Caroline Hoodhart, the Delmia Sustainability Industry Process Expert Specialist at Dassault Systèmes. Hello, Caroline. Can you tell us how can companies improve their processes to incorporate more recycled materials in manufacturing?
Yeah, so it starts with life cycle assessment to know which material has the biggest impact on the final product. So let me give some examples. So if it turns out that the biggest impact is in supply chains, then maybe optimizing your sourcing strategy may be helpful here. And that can be a true challenge because we have the amount of suppliers, the availability and the quality of the recycled materials. So that may be an idea to look into. Then if the impact is in manufacturing, like in most of the industries, it is actually the easiest to just use virgin material. But with optimization, we can enable to use more recycled materials instead. So, for example, in the steel industry, this chemical composition is very important, and you cannot just put all scrap materials for that final product, but you carefully need to mix and blend the right type of scrap materials together for that final product. And for that, the matching the demand and the available recycled supply can be helpful. Then if the impact would be most in the material itself, it may be worth to look into in the recipe. And for example, for cement, there is sand, there is water and some other ingredients. And if you define for which ingredients the most waste is generated, then you may look into alternative ingredients to remove or reduce the amount of waste. So these are just some examples, and Dassault Systèmes can enable companies to make these materials more circular.
Absolutely. Optimizing our sourcing strategy can play a big role in making materials more circular. Thank you, Caroline. Now, let's move on to our next industry expert, Karim Fudge, who is the Innovia Senior Industry Process Expert at Dassault Systèmes. Hello, Karim. So our question for you is, how can companies make more sustainable sourcing decisions earlier in product development? And how would this impact the rest of the product lifecycle?
Sustainable sourcing is the first step toward circularity. To achieve this, companies need to align their sourcing strategy with their ESG and sustainability goals globally. And there are opportunities to easily achieve this by buying renewable energy, by procuring energy efficiency technologies and deploying them into the different production sites, by purchasing other companies and organizations' waste and byproduct and then using those as raw materials. We can also acquire or buy carbon credit and other sustainability assets. And here are some real-life examples of companies who succeeded to incorporate those practices into their operations. We have, for instance, IKEA. IKEA is participating in some councils like the FSC in order to make sure that they are managing, the sourcing of their raw materials in a very sustainable way, and also invest in programs that promote reforestation and the biodiversity. We have, for instance, Patagonia Recycled Materials Initiatives, Wornwear, where they encourage their customers to buy used clothes and therefore reduce the demand on new product. We also have Unilever Initiative, RSPO, where they have a goal of achieving 100% sustainable palm oil sourcing.
Brilliant. Those are some really good examples. Thank you for sharing your insight, Karim. Next up, we've got Mel Creasy, the Similia Business Development Consultant at Dassault Systèmes. So Mel, could you share some insight into the unexpected value of simulation, especially in developing new and sustainable materials? How can companies tap into this?
Innovating with new sustainable materials, it is not easy. This is not a trivial task, and companies need to quickly understand how a new material might behave throughout its entire life cycle, from the initial conversion of that raw material into a packaging structure, right the way through to the recycling and disposal of that product, or reuse if that's the actual intent for the pack solution. Any new material needs to be capable of satisfying a complex range of business and consumer requirements. With the right effort, these design requirements can be understood and satisfied with the use of simulation. Simulation greatly helps companies to select the right materials, helps with concept creation, design development, and scale up. However, this is only possible if the material behavior itself is really well understood. And this requires some effort to create good material performance. When new and sustainable materials can be accurately modeled, this creates value opportunities in many ways. First of all, it allows design teams to understand the structural performance of a new pack design early in the development process. And it also creates the opportunity to simulate and understand the effects of real-world variation throughout the entire value chain. For example, variation in the raw material ingredients themselves or in the manufacturing process, and how this might affect material quality, behavior, and performance downstream. Variation through the factory and supply chain and distribution channels can be understood, and also environmental factors like temperature, humidity. These can all affect material behavior and ultimately packaging performance. Being able to simulate and understand each of the above helps companies to quickly and confidently scale up new innovations so that they can be deployed into diverse markets, supply chains, and diverse environments where they could be safe in the knowledge that the material and the design are going to perform as expected and meet consumer expectations while satisfying the business environmental targets. While simulation is continuously advancing and developing, I think it's important to acknowledge that physical testing of the final design is still a key step in the process, but increasingly this is becoming more of a validation step rather than a learning step where potentially unwanted or unforeseen risks might be realized. And simulation brings information and a level of understanding and confidence that's simply not achievable without it. And ultimately helps companies to develop packaging innovations using new sustainable materials faster than ever before.
Those are good insights for companies who are looking to explore simulation, especially in material selection and design. So thank you, Mel. On that note, let's move into the topic of sustainable materials, this time for the construction industry. Our next industry expert is Remy Dornier. He is the VP of the Architecture, Engineering and Construction industry at Dassault Systèmes. So, Remy, companies are wondering, how can they use sustainable building materials without breaking the bank?
Can we share a few success stories that we have been, I would say, finding very inspiring? I think the first approach is to leverage biomass. I hear often about the project to capture carbon. I know very interesting features today which capture carbon. This is trees. And trees, they capture the carbon when they are growing. And then we can make very good use of that in constructions. And today, we see more and more initiative in order to replace concrete with materials. And I wanted to emphasize one of the examples of our customers called Piftobois. Piftobois, they have a very interesting model. They own forest. And they responsibly use this forest, in fact, for 50 years. And they take some trees of the forest, and what they do is that make maximum use of those trees. So they use all the scrappage is used for heatings. The low quality wood material is done for to make, in fact, some bardage, what we call facade and so on. And the high quality materials is to make, in fact, constructions materials. And we have been helping them to make next generation of material called cross-laminated timbers. So this is a material able to replace concrete slabs inside the factory, inside the buildings. And we help them to reduce and to improve the productivities of their line by 15% by using, in fact, virtual twin experience inside the factories. Another example we could share that we can think about the functions of a material. So if you take a facade elements of a buildings, so this is aesthetic, this contributes to the shape of the buildings. It's to view outside, of course. And today we have examples in China where customers such CMBM and CSADI, this is one of the biggest architecture and engineering institute in China, they are designing net zero towers that are in fact energy positive and which have in fact some facade which generate energy. How did they do that? They engineer a new material which is a photovoltaic glass panel able to generate power. So here we double the functions of the material, and this is very interesting since we are able to move towards, I would say, more energy positive towers. Last but not least, we cannot focus only on the building itself. We can focus on the subcomponents somehow of the building, the sub-pieces, and for that we have many SolidWorks customers today which are working, such as Sablois, which is working in fact on all locking systems, on improving their subsystems. So they try to reduce the quantity of material used to decarbonate and find the best alternatives. And today it's also very important to work in fact the sub-assemblies level.
Yes, it's certainly interesting to see how companies are innovating and creating next generation materials like cross-laminated timber and glass panels that can generate power. It's brilliant. Thanks, Remy, for sharing those insights. Next up, we have Jan Python. He is the business value consultant expert of the business services industry at Dassault Systèmes. Hi, Jan. It's good to have you here. We've just been chatting about sustainable materials. So can you tell us how companies can become more circular, perhaps through their packaging strategy?
When it comes to circular economy or sustainability, one of the first things that pop up in mind is the packaging strategy. It should be because we are all confronted of that in our real life. We all have the same feeling sometimes when we receive an order that to be delivered with the wrong parcel because it's empty, because it's a big box for a small product. So it's easily come to mind to anybody. If we think about what can be different, let's say the first thing we are thinking is that parcel bulk with recycled products. Not only recycled product, but also product coming from bio-based, for instance, like the wool, like algae, that are examples that are already coming in on the markets. We may also use parcel with a manual height adjustment that will allow the packer or the operator to cut the parcel at the level of its content and avoid using additional filling materials. The use of technology allows also to optimize the packaging strategy. Use of technology that can support the operator in the parcel selection to have the best parcel fitting the order, depending on the product characteristic the order contain, but also to avoid to put filling material inside. We can have also some technology that will help the operator to split an order in several parcels in order to optimize the saturation rate of the parcel, but also to optimize the pallet building and the truck loading. And if we go up to the extreme, we can also have industry selling automated packaging equipment or semi-automated packaging equipment. And the carton will be built around the content of the order, and the packer will not have to select anything.
Absolutely. It's great to learn that technology can help companies improve their strategy and avoid unnecessary filling materials. I like that you also made us think about what could be different. Not just packages built with recycled products, but also using bio-based materials like wool and algae. That was very interesting. Thanks, Jan. Those were some good insights. Disruptors Unleashed is produced by Dassault Systems. For more episodes, follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Deezer, or your nearest audio streaming platform. To learn more about Dassault Systems, visit us at 3ds.com.